If you've been on Netflix, you maybe have watched American Nightmare now after you've got done binging Gypsy, Rose, and Natalia Grace. You need another one? That seems to be the one that a lot of us have landed on. If you have not yet, here's kind of what it's about. It's a twisted story. It's a chilling turn of events, reminiscent really of a movie, The Kidnapping of Denise Huskins and Aaron Quinn. It's become the central focus of American Nightmare. It unfolded in the early morning hours of March 23rd, 2015. On that night, an intruder infiltrated Aaron Quinn's home in the San Francisco Bay Area. While he and his girlfriend, Denise Huskins, were present, the assailant, armed with a fake gun, bound and blindfolded the couple, forcing them to consume a sedative. He further terrorized them with a pre-recorded message claiming to be part of a professional group collecting financial debts and threatening violence if they didn't comply with his demands. Like, they literally put, like, headphones on them and had a pre-recorded message that played. I mean, this is, like, very well thought out.
Which screams of somebody who is maybe kind of smart and, I guess has a creative sense of how to do things and how to plan things. And,
like
as we find out, this is a very smart individual.
If those talents had only been used for good.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, and they sort of were, but he had a dark side.
Huskins was forcibly taken away in a vehicle. Quinn received ransom demands of $17,000. However, the ransom was never paid. Quinn, who was grappling with fear for his girlfriend's safety, finally reported the incident to the police later that next day, actually, when he came to, because he had been out of it. He had been drugged up. Then when he came to, got up and then called the police. And the police are immediately looking at him like, what's wrong with you? Why didn't you call yesterday? Like, well, he was drugged and bound. Inexplicable. And of course, this is where then the police kind of get their narrative on what they think is happening, and good luck getting the police off that narrative. The Vallejo police, according to a subsequent lawsuit filed by the couple against the city of Vallejo and its police force, dismissed their claims, accusing Quinn of killing Huskins and concocting an elaborate story. Quinn was subjected to an 18-hour interrogation and a lie detector test, during which he was falsely told he had failed. This disbelief,
which he did not.
Which he didn't. The disbelief and mistreatment would set the stage for a bizarre and tragic chain of events. Keep in mind, they thought they had their guy already, so they weren't looking for anyone. They're just like, nope.
And they didn't have a body. They didn't know if she had been killed.
They're just like, yep, you did it. And that's where it's at, until they're like, oh, shit, maybe you were wrong. 2 days after Huskins' abductions, Vallejo police publicly declared that they believed the couple had fabricated the entire story, with Lieutenant Kenny Park accusing them of wasting valuable resources and causing fear within the community. Criminal charges were even hinted at. However, the story took an eerie turn when the San Francisco Chronicle received a series of emails claiming to be from Huskins' kidnapper. Now, keep in mind, she's been released at this point, and is telling her story of what she believes happened to her. She says that she was abducted. She says that she had been raped twice, and they had to videotape it for evidence, or to have a kind of basically a piece to hold over her head, where if she talks about them or reveals anything, they'll release that tape and they'll go after her family. This is what she's telling police. The emails contain proof of life messages and intricate details about the abduction that only the couple and their abductor would know. It was later confirmed that these emails had indeed originated from Huskins' kidnapper. The breakthrough in the perplexing case came months later when officers from the Dublin Police Services arrested Matthew Mueller, a Harvard-trained attorney and former U.S. Marine, during an unrelated investigation. Evidence found at Mueller's South Lake Tahoe home linked him to the kidnapping. An FBI investigation uncovered disturbing videos of Mueller sexually assaulting Huskins while she was blindfolded. In 2017, Mueller was then sentenced to 40 years in prison for his crimes. Denise Huskins and Aaron Quinn finally received the validation that they had sought, but the emotional scars obviously remained. In March of 2016, the couple filed several lawsuits against the city of Vallejo, accusing them of the vicious and shocking attack on them and creating a media frenzy by accusing them of faking the crime. The city settled for $2.5 million. It wasn't until 2021 that the police Vallejo police publicly apologized for their treatment of the couple. Took a lot of media attention to make that happen. Denise Huskins and Aaron Quinn married in 2018. They've been on a journey together since and underwent therapy to rebuild their lives, resumed their careers as physical therapists, and even co-authored a book about their harrowing experience. The couple still, of course, grapples with answers. Huskins says, "We're never going to get the answers. We've had a long road of trying to accept that." It was a weird story. Then the part two where she doesn't escape. She gets dropped off. The kidnapper.
She doesn't leave her captor. He's like, okay, we're done.
Yeah. Goes and drops her off literally at her house. And then she's able to tell this story and nobody's believing it. They think it's a real life Gone Girl. And it's a total cluster. Everybody's looking at this thing at this time, really thinking it's fake. I mean, it's kind of somewhat reminiscent in certain ways of the Gone Girl or the Sherry Papini story. Except that one was faked. But the police...
Yeah, this one wasn't.
They went to the conclusion right away that this whole thing was made up.
And they didn't really have any proof that it was made up. That's the really strange part, is they immediately jumped to the boyfriend is guilty and she's dead and you did it. And even though they said initially we're treating you as a victim, talking to him during his interrogation, it quickly turned. And it turned in such an ugly way that you and I were talking before we started recording that I'm concerned for this couple. God forbid they ever have something in their lives where they do need to call 911 or they need some sort of intervention of help. They're not going to ever call 911. Ever. It's
one of those things where you don't want, it's like there's certain cities where you don't want to have to be the victim of a crime or need to call the police because you just know the police force is fucked there. I would say Vallejo's one of them. You know, I would say in Texas, what's the town? Uvalde, Texas would be one where I wouldn't want to rely on the police for their assistance. And I'm sure there's plenty of others too, where there's such corruption within the system and egos within the system that they don't want to admit any sort of fault. They don't want to say they're wrong. They want to go down their road of being a hero and figuring it out. But that's not being a police officer. That's not being an investigator. That's you trying to follow a narrative that you pick for your own gratification. And that seemed to be what was going on in that town with those police.
What was so crazy about this is that if it hadn't been for the kidnapper and his ego, he was pissed that the police were saying she made it up. He's like, no, I'm going to send these emails proving that she's not lying. This was not a hoax. This really happened. This is from the kidnapper.
Yeah,
he wants credit.
The kidnapper even chimed in. No, this is real.
Like, yeah, he's standing up for the fucking victim going, she's telling the truth. I really did this stuff to her.
Yeah.
Are you kidding? The whole thing just blew my mind. And I watched it just a few minutes ago, really. I just wrapped it up. There were certain parts I had to fast forward through because it was just like, I can't listen to this detailed account of what he did to her. And it was just horrible. And the fact that she was dropped off, she was basically set free. The police were not looking for this kidnapper. So she's still living under this. Well, they're both living under this veil of, holy shit, he's still out there and nobody's looking for him because they think we did it.
Yeah. Well, and the idiotic investigators in this case also, the husband or the boyfriend at the time in this story, Aaron had told the investigators when he was in his 18-hour questioning that the kidnapper was going to be calling back his phone. What did the genius investigators there in Vallejo do? They took his phone and turned it into put it on airplane mode. When they said the kidnappers are going to be calling me. So at the very least, even if you think you got it right and you think that this man is guilty, and you know it's like okay, whatever. At the very, would he just at least? Why not just leave the phone on just in case? Just see if you're wrong. See if someone calls, and then I don't know, maybe put a little trace on that. And it turns out when they looked back on it. Had they done that, the kidnapper did call, even left voicemails. Had they actually answered that and did a little trace, they could have prevented her second rape.
Yep.
but they were on their narrative and what they were going to do all in such a short period of time. Fucking idiots. And I hope to God those people lost their jobs. Although knowing how sometimes the whole protect the blue thing works, I don't know that is true. And I don't even want to dig into that because this took till 2021 for the Vallejo police to say, sorry, we owe you $2.5 million now. Sorry.
I don't think that's enough.
No.
The way they disrupted their lives for eternity and for that time period, and the fear and anxiety that they created in these people, and the fact that she did get raped a second time by her kidnapper when they could have prevented it. And another family, the other family that this was tied into, that he tried to abduct somebody in Dublin, they should be suing as well, because this guy could have been caught the first time.
It's one of those things where if your police department is working this shittily and things are that out of whack, and this is how someone who comes to you with an emergency and this is how it's handled, that's one where it's like, I'm sorry, the whole place needs to be gutted. I'm not anti-police. Yes. Again, not anti-police. I'm saying we need to correct this because you have a corrupt police department and the whole thing needs to be gutted. You need to go through that thing. A third party needs to go through. Anyone in any sort of decision-making power that allowed this to happen needs to lose their job and never be allowed in law enforcement again. Because I'm sorry, you're just not qualified to do it, judging by the way you handled this case and the real-life impacts that it had on these people. You're not qualified to do it.
I'd like to tell you what happened to Matt Mustard.
Yeah, what?
He was an officer that was basically, he handled the case.
Mm-hmm.
He was given a promotion in the year 2015.
Of course he was. Because that's how we do things when people are protecting each other in corrupt institutions. You just promote them. You promote them up. You promote them out. Look at Judge Francis Gull in the Delphi, Indiana case. I mean, I was just doing some research on that because we're going to be talking quite a bit about that in the coming weeks. Gull is still on that case. Gull just denied Frank's hearing motion now that Richard Allen has his attorneys back. The Frank's hearing was a hearing that was supposed to take a very close look at all the improprieties and likely just abuse of power behavior that the police were undertaking in that investigation and take a closer look at it. But she denied that without a hearing and several other motions as well. So the judge now we already know she clearly doesn't like the defendant here, Richard Allen, who is innocent until proven guilty, who's basically being tortured in a prison right now in the United States because that's how we work now. And she's just seems to be having her fuck you ways of, yeah, well, you tried to do this to me, I'm going to do this right back to you. And it's like children bickering, but it's on a much more real life scale as to the consequences of really just shitty behavior, unethical behavior.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's just astounding that, instead of, and we've talked about this before, instead of saying, oh, whoa, I'm putting on the brakes here because we've made a mistake, we need to correct this, they double and triple down and go, fuck it. Nope, I'm not going to admit fault. We're just going to take it down even further down the rabbit hole and go with it.
Yeah.
And it's astounding and it's terrifying. So I hope none of us are ever on the business end of that. It's just
no kidding.
Terrifying.
Yeah. That's why you always just got to have records of where you are.
Right.
It's like, just I think of these things now because of doing these shows. It's like, okay, if there's ever anything ever happened to anybody, it's like I tried, it's like I'm on the radar anywhere I go. Like there's I can prove what I'm doing at any given time and it's never anything bad. Because God knows. There's so many of these cases where it's like, what the fuck? And the assumptions go, but I think we all start living in a place and time where one can prove things that way as well to be vindicated far more than they could in the past as well. In the past, it would have been, well, taking your word for it. Like now it's like, no, look at my device. Look at this. There's cameras here. There's cameras there. Here's all sorts of ways of confirming an alibi far more than you used to be able to do. So it does work in the other way as well. You just, like you said, you never want to end up being on the business end of it because it looks brutal.
Sick of the ads?
We are too.
Start listening with no commercials now and get access to all of our episodes in advance of everyone else.
Become a True Crime Today Premium Plus subscriber on Apple Podcasts.
Search True Crime Today Premium Plus on Apple Podcasts or go to our podcast page and sign up now.
True Crime Today Premium Plus.
Sign up now.